Listen, like many people, I have seen the Louis Theroux documentary circulating the internet. I have heard the quotes. I have read the little extracts. I have watched the people dissecting point by point by point exactly how this manosphere is damaging. I did not watch the documentary all the way through because I don't need to. I have my own personal experiences with people who have been indoctrinated by this manosphere. Even though calling it the manosphere to me, it seems to reduce down these ideals into something fun and a little bit laughable. It's damaging misogyny, that's what it is at its core, and stupidity being perpetrated online as a wishy washy self improvement culture. But I digress. I was going to make a video essay on this. I have the title saved in my laptop called Insecure Men and Their Obsession with Basic Biology. But I realized very quickly that there was more benefit to me having an open ended discussion with quotes and research done separately rather than writing it down in an article format because of my own personal connections to this culture and my own experiences with the damaging effects of this culture. I'm not going to go into detail, but I was very close to people who were within this society who very heavily were big fans of the masculine energy, the feminine energy, that we are leading a life that the rest of society will one day wake up and go, oh, they had it right the entire time. I lived it, okay? And it wasn't like I was put there out of my own consent. It was lots of little comments over a long period of time that hypnotized me into believing that this masculine feminine energy and the roles that it described were my purpose. Now, just to break it down very quickly, the ideas perpetrated are that men and women inherently should embody different energies. There's feminine energy and masculine energy, and women should embody the feminine energy, the nurturing, submissive, um caring woman who looks after her man and provides for the household, and she's soft, she reads books or she paints or she does music, but she doesn't need to over sexualize herself. No, her energy just oozes attraction. She just walks into a room wearing floor to length skirts and dresses and turtlenecks and hides her body and leaves everything up to the imagination, and the energy that she exudes, this itself is so attractive and so powerful to the right masculine man. And I hear you saying, what's a masculine man? Well, a masculine man, let me tell you right now, he is somebody that could pick up his wife and snap her like a stick over his knees. A masculine man is somebody who embodies everything that society would have you believe is misogynistic and toxic for men. It's somebody who's brave, who doesn't cry, who is stoic in his beliefs, who is a warrior at his heart. He returns to his biological roots. He eats meat. He trains really hard in the gym. He tends towards, violent sports like boxing or Muay Thai. And he wants a big family with his woman, but he doesn't want to be there for the kids. He doesn't want to be there in the room when she's giving birth. He doesn't want to change the nappies. That's his woman's job. His job is to financially provide for his woman, and that's how he will be attractive to her. And on paper, this just to me sounds like one big breeding kink. I'm sorry, like when I really say this, I always say to my friends, there's two reasons that a man is misogynistic. Either he's gay or he's got a breeding kink, but there is no in between, in my opinion. You hate women because you like men, or you just really want women to fulfill your breeding kink. And nobody can change my mind about that. But I digress again. The thing about energies is that it's not actually tied to gender, as far as I can understand in typical mythology and lore. Masculine and feminine energies are tied more to characteristics and behaviors that one displays rather than gender itself. You can go into depth about gods and goddesses in Greek and Roman times and how different goddesses embody different masculine and feminine energies. I'm not going to explain this right now because I actually have a different purpose for this video, but I would encourage you deeply to look into the origins of these masculine and feminine energies because they are not tied to gender like modern society would have you believe. That's all I'll say. One thing that really stands out to me about this culture is their clinging to wishy-washy philosophy and very baseline self-improvement. Now, male influencers, masculine energy influencers, they say a lot. They get behind a microphone on a podcast and they talk and they talk and they talk and they talk about things that nobody asked them to talk about. For example, there's a big debate about purity culture, women's body counts. and how the difference between men and women it operates. And that in itself is a very harmful narrative to spin because, quite frankly, people don't understand enough about how society works and how purity culture worms its way into the minds of the most vulnerable people and tells them that their insecurities are valid because society backs it up for them, and it allows them to behave horribly towards women who didn't deserve it, or maybe don't even understand fully that they are being treated as less because of something that does not actually contribute to their value at all. I actually wrote an article about this a while ago about how a person of true value does not look to external factors to validate their value, but rather holds it within themselves. And if you are valuing yourself based on body count, or the amount of people that you can pull, or the way that you behave, you are looking to external factors. And if you turn to external factors to validate and value yourself, you are looking against other people, which to me is a sign of insecurity because my value comes from myself alone and nobody else. I am ranked against nobody but myself and my past versions of myself. And it would do some people good to embody this idea. However, I am getting off topic. It's this idea that your insecurities are validated because society provides you with a valid explanation for it. Little do you know that these cultures, these ideals, these norms, they come from prehistoric times. They come from medieval concepts whereby a man wanted to ensure his child was his own because then the land of his would be passed down to that child. So purity culture is invented to police who the father of the baby is because you always know who the mother of the baby is, but you can never be 100% certain. And it's that simple. It's not about value. It's not about self discipline or control or respect for oneself. It is simply about who the father of the baby is. Again, reducing us back to prehistoric times, but I digress. Now, the real point that I wanted to talk about is Stoicism because I see this everywhere and it hurts my head when men get online and they say that they are stoic because they don't react to anything. Specifically, I can't remember the male influencer, but he was on the Louis Theroux podcast and he was saying, being a man is about being stoic, about standing steadfast in the face, nothing phases me, blah blah blah. But I took issue with his understanding of stoicism because I read the book, okay? I did read the book. And my understanding of stoicism as presented by Seneca, Letters from a Stoic, the OG father of Stoicism, was not what was being shown to me on the internet. So I want to just highlight a few key issues I have from Stoicism within the lifestyle of this manosphere and the masculinity that's being perpetrated online, because it comes down to three key factors to be validated as an alpha male, okay? So they always say you need to have financial success, physical success in the body, and romantic success with romantic partners. And the first key thing that irritates me is that notion of financial success. You cannot be both stoic and driven by finances. It does not exist. You are not a true stoic if you're driven by finances. Why, Hannah? You say? Don't worry, I've got quotes. The first quote, there are many. An intimate who leads a pampered life gradually makes one soft and flabby. Your food should appease your hunger, your drink quench your thirst, your clothing keep out your cold, and your house be a protection against inclement of weather. Those are three quotes that I have just selected from my highlighted parts of this book. I have not in particular used them to build a case against the point that I'm talking about. I just opened the pages and looked at what I had underlined. Seneca preached a simple life. Stoicism encourages a rejection of overly indulging in pleasures. It encourages a rejection in your attachment to human indulgences such as money, such as wealth, such as fame. So tell me then how you can preach that you are a stoic if you are constantly chasing money. And these people, they get on the internet and they say, oh, but I'm not chasing money because I have money. In order to have money, you have to have first chased it. You have to have first worked for it. And if you look in depth at most of the courses that these so-called stoic masculine energy teachers promote, a lot of the first few bases that they cover are about financial success and gain. Now, I will tell you right now, there is a difference between being comfortable financially and being successful financially. Being comfortable just means, again, having enough food to eat and living in a house that will protect you from the weather. It does not mean have a mansion in Miami and a 3-course meal with steak and all the extravagant whiskey you can think of and cigars that you can find and VIP tables at the best club. That is not what it emphasizes at all. It emphasizes simple living. True philosophical living emphasizes a rejection of societal luxuries. This is a core principle. I fear if you study philosophy for even a second, you understand this. And yet, for some reason, these Stoics on the internet don't seem to have grasped this concept. Another point that I take issue with about these so-called Stoics is the fact that they are so desperately chasing attention that they openly admit to, I just say controversial things on the internet for attention because then it pays me, blah, blah, blah. When, again, I turn to Seneca. Refrain from following the example of those whose craving is for attention, not for their own improvement. If you are saying things merely to get the attention of other people, I wouldn't take your advice on how to walk my dog, let alone how to live my life, and you would not catch me dead paying you any money, okay? If your words are simply to get validation from people and you are that desperate and your ego is that deprived of validation, I don't think you can think a single clear thought. Your mind is so clouded by your ego. Furthermore, on that point about speaking truthfully and using correct language, there's a whole section here. Let me read it to you. Words need to be sown like seeds. No matter how tiny a seed may be, when it lands in the right sort of ground, it unfolds in its strength, and from being minute expands and grows to a massive size. Furthermore, language, moreover, which devotes its attention to truth, ought to be plain and unadorned. The words you use have an impact. Specifically, if you have a platform, you must note that you are influencing vulnerable individuals, people who are still developing and growing. Again, your words are like a seed. You plant that seed in someone's mind and it's going to grow and develop and blossom and bloom into something very complex. Okay? When you are speaking just to get attention and you are out on the internet perpetrating terrible stereotypes, even if you do not believe them, you are part of the problem. And I always saw this argument, and I always heard this argument as well. Andrew Tate doesn't believe the things he says. Andrew Tate is just saying these things because he knows that it causes outrage and he knows that people will watch his videos and give him views. I don't care. That's greed. That is greed on the highest level. There is nothing philosophical about that whatsoever because as soon as you say those words, somebody is going to hear them and take them as verbatim. I'm a big subscriber to the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis that the language you use shapes the way you view the world around you. If you can use such derogatory language towards an entire gender or 50% of the population, you must to some extent believe it. And even if you do not believe it, you hold that respect so little for them. You hold such little regard that you can't even get on the internet and say anything nice. You have to lie for attention. And don't even get me started on the women who have been brainwashed into believing that the points that these people make are true and that they should be subscribing to them. And the women who will put their own gender on the line to defend such misogyny. It's insane to me. But I don't blame them. I don't, because at the end of the day, we are consistently put down as a gender. We are consistently having to watch our backs and make sure that we are not being manipulated or used or turned against ourselves. And sometimes you can suffer so deeply and so greatly that you are told that the best thing you can hope for is to be disrespected by a mediocre man. And again, the thing that broke my heart in the Louis Theroux documentary was that interview with the girlfriend. And she's holding herself and she's all making herself small and remorse. And let me tell you right now, the way that these men condition women is despicable. They tell women that they are useless, that they are ruined, that nobody will ever love them, that they are lucky to even be considered as a prospect by this man. The masculinity crisis, the manosphere, the people who are within it, they isolate women, they isolate vulnerable women, women who suffer, who rely on them. Specifically, women who have been through a lot in their lives and like the feeling of being protected. That's it. That's where it comes from. Oh, this man's going to provide for me and nobody's ever provided for me before. And they spend a good few months together and you see it all the time in the media. The woman starts posting about simple living. Bet you anything, the second a woman starts cutting out sugar from her diet, I just know for a fact she's with a man who's bad, okay? He tells her that we're living this dream life, we're going to build this dream life together. You and I, we're going to be different and nobody else can see it yet, and your friends and family are going to tell you I'm controlling, but I'm not. I just care about you, and I don't want you on the internet posting things that other men can look at. And realistically, I'd prefer if you had no social media presence at all, because social media is a masculine thing and you are entering your masculine energy, and I want you to enter your feminine energy as much as possible. XYZ, XYZ. And bit by bit by bit, they break down every sense of identity the women have, and a lot of the time they're only found models, or they are female influencers, and they then reduce them down to the one purpose they bring to them. And you see it in the podcast. What do you bring to the table? Sex. That's all you bring to the table is sex. And I can find that anywhere. They reduce you down to the one thing that we do biologically, which is the one thing that everyone in the world can do, by the way. You aren't special for being able to do it. But anyways, and then they say that you are ruined if you do it with a man, because what self-respecting man's going to want someone who's not a virgin? So you've got to stick with him, because if you leave him, no man of value is ever going to want you again. And just like that, the woman is trapped. And I have seen it in so many different masculine influences. It's insane, this pattern of behavior, this controlling behavior. And I see it in my friends. And I have conversations with people about it all the time, because I wrote an article about this, demeaning you down to the value of your body, which again is valuing yourself on an external factor. I talked about the ramifications of telling a person that their value is tied to something physical, because of course that body is going to deteriorate over time. And what you're telling me then is your value is going to deteriorate over time? No, I'm sorry, but to me, true value is found within the mind and the soul, and how well you are able to know me and love me and care for me. And listen, I'm completely fine going my entire life not being with a person. If I do not end up married or with children, I will be just as happy as if I am with them. And that is not because I am not fulfilling my purpose, or because I am a sad cat woman who desires to be alone. I have options. I could get married, I could have children. I am choosing right now to accomplish my goals first, because I would much rather be satisfied that I accomplished everything I have chosen to do in my life than reduce myself down to the base core of what humanity is and just reproduce. I would accomplish my goals and prioritize myself before I prioritize the biological goals of humanity. And I'm sorry if that makes me selfish, but it never stopped a man before from being a bachelor until he's ready to settle down. So why would I accommodate myself too? Oh, biological clock. I don't care. I have siblings, okay? I have nephews already. My biological line has already been continued. And my legacy will not be tied to the children I have, but the things I do whilst I am alive, because my legacy is not attached to somebody else. And a child is 50% of somebody else and 50% of how that parent raises that child alongside you. My legacy is me, and their legacy will be them should I choose to have children. And this is a small tangent, but I think it is despicable to tell a human being that their entire value is tied to the one thing that they can do biologically. And if they can't do that, then they are inadequate. One of the most masculine people in my life is my dad. My dad hears these podcasts, listens to what these people are saying, and he laughs. He laughs at them. And my dad, to me, is a picture of masculinity. He is stable in himself and his identity. He is stable in his emotions. He does not react. When I react, he does not react with me. My dad is somebody who has always protected me and always provided for me. And never once has he agreed with these male influencers online. And he says himself that they are silly, insecure boys projecting their insecurities onto the internet and role playing as though they have an ounce of self respect or self esteem, as though their entire identity is not tied to their shallow ego that they have cultivated as an online persona. So, that's a bit of a tangent here. But it irritates me when I see on the internet the stoic masculine energy debate, and it's been reawoken in me by watching this Louis Theroux documentary. And I'm gonna write that article about insecure men and their obsession with basic biology, because I think the way that they idolize Darwin is insane, and I think it's pathetic. But I just wanted to very quickly make an open-ended discussion about this subject, something that's very personal to me, and something that I could talk about for days, obviously. And it's very relevant now, and I hope that many more discussions like these continue, because this damage has been underpinning the online community and society for a very long time, and is very detrimental to many people. So, you know what? I've said my piece. I'll put the microphone down now, I promise. That's all.